This is a very important year for Irish Modern Dance Theatre. I set Irish Modern Dance Theatre up initially in 1991. We had our first performance September 1991. So 2021 is the 30th anniversary of our first performance. And so we're building up to celebrate in a variety of different ways. When I started the company, there were very few dance companies in existence. The Irish National Ballet and Dublin City Ballet and Dublin Contemporary Dance Theatre had closed in the previous years, and there were about two to three small companies who were functioning. And I had been traveling a lot and seeing a lot of work, and I had been part of Dublin City Ballet and another company, Irish Theatre Ballet. And I decided that I would found the company to present my own work and also to build bridges with international practitioners, international choreographers and teachers who I had met in my studies and who inspired me. And I wanted to maybe create some sort of a structure that we could have an international kind of channel or portal to bring other artists in, because our experience of contemporary dance was very, very limited. There was no dance festival at this time in Dublin. I applied to the Arts Council in early 1991 for a grant. I think I applied for 23,000 and I got 3,000, but that was enough for me. When I saw the envelope coming in, and the rejection letters were usually a small envelope and the acceptance letters I knew were a big envelope, and I saw the big envelope coming and it said John Scott, Artistic Director, Irish Modern Dance Theatre. I thought, whoa. And there was the acceptance, and it was 3,000, but that was enough for me. That was enough to get me into trouble. So our first two presentations were in Project, and Project has often been our Dublin home. It's the venue we perform in most, though we've been in other places, and we've performed everywhere from the side of a wall to a restaurant, and for Five Lamps on the banks of the Royal Canal. So it's nice to kind of go many places and keep our options open. Last year, we were meant to go to New York, to Bulgaria, to Italy, to France, and all of that had to be deferred. And Edinburgh also during the festival. So everything has been postponed. But then in the beginning of the lockdown, I felt I didn't know how we were going to produce work and do things when we couldn't even go into the studio. And I started to rehearse with my dancers via Zoom, which I found very difficult in the beginning. The time delay, the synchronization, dancing in your kitchen or someone else dancing in their bedroom or their mother's living room against the mantelpiece. But it became very exciting, and we were all inspired by doing that. And then a theatre in New York that I work with a lot, La Mama, they asked me to give a performance online. They work with an organization called Culture Hub, which is an online artists community that's been functioning for years doing online work. So Culture Hub used this technology called Live Lab, which is a little bit like Zoom, and you have a backstage room, a stage room, and there were two technicians would talk you in, and I gave a performance, an excerpt of my solo Heroes, which lasted about 7 to 10 minutes, and I performed in my hall. The screen, I performed into the laptop screen, and so the camera didn't move. If you needed to be close, you came close, and if you needed to have your whole body, you stepped back. And it was terrifying doing the online performance. It was like the most high-pressure opening night nerves. And it was the performance started at midnight our time. It was 7 o'clock New York time. So I was watching these little boxes and waiting to be called in, and there were other performers. The Japanese-American choreographer Yoshiko Chuma was performing, and various other people. And I finally got my cue, and performing was so electrifying. And it was something that I thought, we're not going to be able to do this for a long time. And suddenly to be performing, even though it was into the computer, there was something about the live format, and it wasn't dancing on film, it was a performance. I felt like I was on stage. And then all the artists got together at the end, we talked, and then we had a little Zoom party. And when I did that, I thought, there is a way, I think now, that I can continue to do the work online. And we were planning our own festival, Dancer from the Dance Festival, which was meant to be live, and it was going to be in New York, and then it was going to be in Dublin. So we planned to make it happen in Dublin, and I worked with the filmmaker Luca Trufarelli, and we worked on the idea of performing into the screen like this, or performing into a smartphone in landscape format. And we did the entire festival, 32 choreographers, 30 dance pieces, which were all filmed on location. So we did this, and then I made another piece for Visual Carlow Arts Centre for Culture Night, which was filmed. And I made a piece for Dance Limerick we were able to perform it live for a small audience of 25 who were in these little capsules with plexiglass screens between them. And it was also streamed. And then I made a piece, Dances for Inside and Outside, which was in the complex. And I choreographed that socially distant. All the dancers wore masks. And I love making duets. I love group contact. Are close together. But for this, I didn't want to make anything that was going to be in breach or risking the welfare of the dancers. I couldn't look at it, and I couldn't ask people to do that. So we choreographed with a distance of 2 meters as much as possible with the other dancers, and masked and observing all the safety regulations. Dances for Inside and Outside is part of a cycle of works large and small created since the beginning of the pandemic.
And John, did you always want to be a dancer? Did you start off as a dancer?
I started late, Roisin. I grew up, my father was a lighting designer in the Abbey Theatre, and my brother Michael's a theatre director. But when we were kids, we were brought into the theatre every weekend. We'd come in and sit in the lighting box and watch whatever play. And we'd go in almost every Friday. And if the play ran for 5 weeks, we saw it 5 times. If it ran for 2 weeks, we saw it twice. I remember my mother was busy nursing my grandmother, and we had to go in every night. And I remember seeing a production of The Plough and the Stars that was directed by the Abbey actress Sheila Richards every night for 2 weeks. And that was a great kind of training. I'd have my homework and be going into the back room to do my homework, and then we'd drive home with Dad. And then it was also in the Abbey that I saw my first dance performance. I saw a piece called The Green Table by a German expressionist choreographer, Kurt Jus. The Abbey had these seasons in June when a guest company, it could be a theatre company or a dance company, would come over when the actors were on their 2 weeks holidays. So this company called the Tanzforum Cologne came, and they danced this famous expressionist dance, The Green Table. And I loved theatre. I was growing up seeing it and being around it. And if we were in town to buy shoes or school books, we'd go into the theatre to pick up my dad to get a lift home. And you were backstage and actors going around the place. And I remember seeing rehearsals of Riders to the Sea, The Playboy of the Western World, all these things. I loved it, but I wasn't fully burning with urgency, and I thought I was maybe going to be a writer or do something else like that. But when I saw The Green Table, it electrified me. I was 12, so a 12-year-old boy in those days didn't really... I mentioned wanting to study dance maybe, but my mother said, yeah, look around, but nothing happened. I didn't act on it. So I didn't have my first dance class till I was in college. I went to UCD to study English literature, which I thought I was going to become a dancer. I got drawn into drum sock, I got drawn into plays, and I started making these visual theatre pieces. And then the choreographer Anne Courtney came to perform, and as a thank you gift she offered dance classes. So I had my first dance class age 19, and then this other contemporary dancer called Marcia Paludin. She was working with Joan Davis, and she had come to Ireland. Her husband was a visiting professor in Trinity College in maths or something, and she taught a type of a release technique, and I found that really, really interesting because I was a late starter. I wasn't very coordinated, and this gave you kind of a control of your own body. It worked on this skeletal system of movement where you thought about your bones and the muscles were wrapped around your bones, and that was really interesting, and it opened a door for me to find my dance and my movement. There's the MA in University of Limerick. There's also a BA now, which has just started, and some dancers still go abroad. There's the College of Dance. There's the training course in Inchicore. There's a models teacher in Belfast, Marie Mannion, who was the teacher of Una Doherty and Ryan O'Neill and Eileen McClory, and so there are initiatives. Dance Ireland also exists now. In the beginning, Dance Ireland started as the Association of Professional Dancers in Ireland to generate class, and now they have this beautiful building, 6 studios, funding to have residencies. So it is, there are a lot of people who are having careers now in dance, and it's still hard, and they maybe apply for project funding and they get some money to make something, or they get some residency money. There's dance artists in residence schemes, and there's an infrastructure that just did not exist in those days. So it was exciting to be a pioneer. It was kind of hard too, but it's always hard. It's always going to be hard, and it's exciting. And we are now producing things. And I started in 2019. We were performing in New York in a place called the 92nd Street Y. It's this temple of modern dance where Martha Graham, Doris Humphrey, all these, Merce Cunningham started. Alvin Ailey started his company in that building. And the curator was asking me about dance in Ireland and what's happening. We were performing a work by Merce Cunningham. And I was telling her about different things that were happening in dance in Ireland. And she asked me would I be interested in curating a festival of Irish choreography. So I said, absolutely. And then we went and talked to the Irish Arts Centre, and we started the festival in New York in 2019 in the 92nd Street Y. Jean Butler, Una Doherty, Aoife McAtamy, Dylan Quinn, Mufatau Youssef, and I wanted to show the variety of Irish dance and also to challenge what Irish identity was. And we worked with Irish Americans, with people who identify as being Irish from maybe the Irish diaspora. So Sean Curran, who is Boston Irish, was an Irish step dancer, but is also a contemporary choreographer. And Jean Butler, of course, who comes from that background. But then also Mufatau Youssef, who is a Nigerian who lives in Trim, County Meath, and has been working with me for several years and is now working between Belgium and Ireland. And I wanted to show that Irishness is more than just the red hair, freckles, and pale skin. So I've been challenging notions of Irish identity. And then last year, the festival had to go online, and we had support from the Arts Council and Culture Ireland, but we did it still as an Irish-American festival. So we're planning another festival for this year and also going to try to break the stereotype.
In one way, although there is Irish dance, there's Irish modern dance, it's really new to us, isn't it, here in Ireland in the last 30, 40 years that it's bigger. We've got Dance House, we've got Limerick, we've got all kinds of things happening. We've got Company, we've got Cushcane, we've got lots of things happening. But it's something maybe that we were very restricted in Ireland, and it's something that we're welcoming here now.
Yes, some people would say it's maybe about the church and the effect on the body, and maybe the way we moved and the way we perceived ourselves. And there's something with dance that it's funny, dance, when you think of where dance came from, from subsidized. The dance we know, ballet, came from France, from Italy, and then Russia. And it seemed to need wealthy countries or wealthy governments to support it. And that there's something about when dance is thriving in a society, the society is at its most enlightened. And maybe, though, the 1930s, there was a lot of very important dance happened in Germany in the 1930s, and they all had to then leave or comply. And it doesn't mean that the society is good, but it means maybe that there's more enlightenment or more possibilities, and that Ireland, with its new definition of its identity, is expressing itself, is choosing dance, is very, very interesting. And of course, Yeats, in his poem Among School Children, talks about the dancer and the dance, and his own plays had these big dance parts. And Ninette de Valois, who founded the Royal Ballet, who was born in County Wicklow, Ninette de Valois had been dancing with Diaghilev, and then she came from there to Dublin and started a school of ballet in the Abbey and did the choreography for Yeats. So she tried, but it was too early maybe, and she ended up going to England and starting the Royal Ballet. She had really tried. And I think it was just the wrong time for a woman try and do that. But now it's happening, and it's, I think, only the beginning. I like to look for the positive possibilities.
Okay, that's great, John. So after 30 years, you're just at the beginning.
Absolutely, bring it on.
Brilliant. Thanks so much.